and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Michelle Holden, and I am wanting to call this Beyond Mixed Media a journey to your true art, because that's what this journey is all about. So welcome if you are here for the first time. This week, or last week, I created a bunch of journaling papers that I really love, and I'm showing you right now. I'm using Liquitex, Turquoise, Mars Black, the transparent white, the neutral, and this is the palette. And that is the art journal that inspired this first page. And I am going to continue this little series. So this is a video series in this particular art journal. I'm going to finish it up. It's a smaller one. And I want to do, as I've shown you there, 4 different pages, because I really want to explore this palette, the lines, and what I can do with this palette before I go into a series. And I've got some small canvases and maybe some wood panels that I want to work on. So as you can see, I've started this page very differently than I usually do. I usually start with pencil, but that comes in later. And that's what it is that I'm talking about with your sequencing of layers. So if you haven't already, please check out my 5-day free course on intuitive layers. The link is on my channel, as you can see if you click the links, and give it a try. Because I take you on a little bit of a mark making pattern journey to set you up and start you on your own path, using this mixed media layering process blended with intuition. So I'm loving this page beginning because I've really wanted to explore the overlapping of paint, because as I mentioned before, I want to use a little more paint and a little less collage on my canvases and larger work, and that's where we're going. So a music page sprayed with water first is really nice and soft, so I'm trying to decide right away. I don't know about the composition. Is it going to be horizontal? Is it going to be a quadrant or all over? And that's really basically the 3 compositions that I work with right now, though I probably will develop more as time goes on. And using my favorite brush for applying my heavy gloss medium for my thicker pages or collage papers. And if you're interested in this color palette, I will leave, or I do leave the colors in the video description below, as well as the link for the 5-day free course. So as you can see, I'm not liking this, the balance. It's developing already a horizontal layout. And I love the brayer for its surprises. Oh, and by the way, in this page, there are so many unexpected surprises because I am pushing the envelope. I'm trying different things, and those are great. It means that you're, getting out of your usual kind of process and starting to explore more things. So as you can see, the color shaper is wonderful for removing paint, but I do spray a little bit of water first, and it helps lift, because I still want to see those wonderful layers. Sometimes they get totally covered up, as you will see when I do use that stencil in the upper left corner there of my journal, and that's okay. But it's just all the practice and the process and finding out what works and what we like. So a little drying needed. I probably missed this in the editing process, but that's okay because while I'm drawing this layer, you can take a closer look at it, and I'm really loving this old, like old walls or old, like a patina look. Now, the swirly line page just had to go in here. I was going to use the dash one, but as you can see, it's just, I'm not feeling it. Those are the pieces that I chose. That was the one that inspired this whole color palette, that colorful one, which the hues are a lot stronger. So here I come with my wavy line, which is a transparent piece on deli paper created with the jelly plate printer and the toothed catalyst wedge. So just using that intuitive placement, seeing what feels good, thinking about scale, well, maybe it needs to be smaller. It needs to be different. So I'm thinking horizontally, and that is a different pattern, but as you can see, it's the same colors. And that's why it's so great to work with a cohesive set of collage papers, because you just can't go wrong. And it all goes together so well. And so as I'm cleaning off my brush, I finally made the decision that this is, or needs to be, a horizontal composition. So I know I hesitated putting this piece in, but it just made the most sense, probably mostly because of the color similarities. Not the pattern, but I just like, and it's horizontal waving lines, so I really like that. So I'm trying to find, now that would have worked all right if I changed the composition and did more of an all over. And I am going to explore that possibility too. See, this is wonderful. I love this collage, but it's too busy. There's something, it's just not going with the rest of, it's the energy, it's a feeling or an emotion that I'm always looking for my work. And that's why I love to use abstract. I'm loving that piece of collage. It's beautiful. And I like to echo the same types of textures or similar textures with the paint. It just gives it that more depth. So I'm loving this peachy multi-layered piece with the neutral, the yellow oxide and orange, and maybe a little bit of pink in there. And it was a ghost print that cleaned off the jelly plate printer. And then I decided to add some circles with my stamping tool on top, using that neutral again. So I better get some more. And I'm finding out with doing my research that the heavy based paints work way better for jelly plate printing versus the fluid, like golden fluid or the Liquitex fluid, and keeping that in mind. So I missed my pencil lines. So these are going in mid-layer rather than at the beginning, which can affect them showing up more or less in the end. So I'm loving that. Loving its translucency, especially where the organic circles or bubbles or whatever you want to call them are. Yeah, perfect. So I think I decide to put that in. I don't know if I use the entire piece or if I scale it down. Nope, we're gonna go for it. And then again, that's emphasizing a horizontal composition. it just started raining outside, and I was just going to take my dog for a walk. And he's whining because there's people walking by and he can see them. And we might need to postpone that walk, Dexter. Sorry, we should have went earlier. But I had to do my narration for my video. So hard to fit everything in, and that's what I'm talking about. And that's what a lot of other artists are talking about lately. But we will work out this balance. So I'm really loving how this deli paper translucent piece of collage is showing some of the blue underneath. And I will write a note to myself, even if blue, would it have been even more effective if I just put a few more blue lines or whatever under that section where I just touched with the color shaper? But since it's subtle, I think it works just nicely. So I paused there, looking for my larger catalyst wedge, the one with the even edge on it, because it's super and gentle enough to get out all of the bubbles. I don't mind a few bubbles, but I don't like a whole bunch of bubbles. And here I am zooming in, which is so awesome. And you can see there's like a slight ripple texture, which is sort of cool. Now, what to do next? Where is this going? So I remembered, oh yes, that's why the stencil's there, because that other page inspired that. And so we're just going to put an overlapping layer. Now, in hindsight, it would have been better to use the neutral, maybe with a little white and like a lighter peach, either bringing that down or bringing the darker up to create an overlapping effect. So I will write that in my notes. This ends up getting covered up anyway. I know some of you, my regular subscribers, and thank you very much. Yes, and I forgot. I have reached a significant number. I am now just over 9,000 subscribers. So thank you so much, everyone. And I really do hope you hit subscribe if you're new here. Hit that like button so we can keep this channel going and growing and evolving. So, using a nice new brush here, making sure your paint is dry enough and your brush is dry enough so you can have nice crisp stencils. And I think that's important because that's the whole point of putting down this design. And as I'm going, I'm realizing it really does, it's okay. It's sort of there, it's sort of not there. But at least it adds another layer of interest. In hindsight, I would have liked to bring that peachy color down more, and it would have made that area larger and more of a difference to the other sizes of the other horizontal areas. So, a note to self. So I made a little decision there, and like I was using the white stamp circles on the black background with that 16 series, I will leave the card here in the upper right hand corner if you haven't checked that out. It was, it goes up to part 5, I believe, and it was so great. I'm going to be doing the same but larger. But you can always, it's so much fun to work on a large piece of watercolor paper and turn it into 16 little paintings. And through that repetition, you learn so much. So this is going on, and it's going to go on in the upper area of that peach horizontal color. And then I decide, yes, that's the perfect spot for it. And just because it's slightly translucent, it's of similar value, so it's not interrupting the composition. Not that, any kind of horizontal would work at this point. But then it's a narrower piece, so it makes it different from the other horizontal areas or sections. And what caught my eye was that little bit of more towards yellow oxide in the upper left-hand side of this area. So I decide to, let's intensify that area and see what happens. So I'm removing some of the shadowy effect from the blue in the previous layers. And now this is more there. And yes, it's very interesting. Because I don't want it too peachy, you know what I mean? It's just too, we have to be careful, or I think I have to be careful with this color choice when you're getting into blues and oranges. But I do end up bringing in some pink. Let's see how much pink I put in. Okay, just a little, just so it's not so yellow, just calming that down. Yes, that's really good. Wow, very opaque. Just playing with translucency and opacity is enough. So I'm re-emphasizing and then carrying that on. And now the composition is definitely more there. So in that move, I thought, okay, why am I doing it vertically when it should go across horizontally? And I hesitated there because I love the tearing aspect. So then I decide to finally cut it. I think I'm trying to find the other piece because I tore them up. Decide to use my scissors on one end and a torn on the other. And so now doing this design on a text, and that's why I use that peachy neutral color, because of the color of that collage paper. And now it's really extending, but in a different way. So another difference on the page. So that's where I say I ended up covering up that stencil piece because it just wasn't doing anything. Oh, so beautiful. And now the page wants to be less blue and more neutral. And that is so nice with those subtleties above. And I know it's not the same one, but it fits. So in it goes. Making decisions. Oh, it's so nice. I love that. So I'm thinking, nope, that's got to go. And then what you can do is you can go over the lines again. Putting in another layer would fix that break in that line. there's a little blue blob of paint I see there. It'll just add interest. And that's another little trick you can do. Just match it with the same paint, and if it doesn't go right to the edge, that usually helps. And in the end, as you can see, it's a really high contrast, so I end up using some neutral with my color shaper, and I just skim a layer across the top, and it really helps calm that high contrast down. So yes, I needed to do something there and realize that it's a little too subtle. So I think later on I come in with a little more opacity by adding any kind of opaque layer, adding some of that neutral. Using white would have helped too, because it would have been closer to maybe the circles above, but I'm glad these ones are sort of different. But now you can see them better, so they're showing up better. And finding a smaller brush for my, these aren't really dashes as they're just marks. And I'm using just a slightly lighter value because I don't want to interfere with what's already there. And I'm really liking the type of, it's amazing how you overlook what you already have in your studio. So these are my older watercolor brushes, of course, or whatever kind of brushes. And they're small, so they're up in a bin above my wall there. I thought, I've got to have something else. And it's amazing that I still have not experimented enough with the tools that I have already. So just putting in that glaze, or a wash, you might call it, at the top, and liking that, keeping in that blue. But see, as I'm adding more, the contrast, it's darker, and now I came in and lightened it up. So now the eye isn't holding there, which is so much better. There's that piece. I don't even know if I'll end up using it. I'll just put it up on my wall for inspiration. It's going to be part of my inspiration wall, and I can't wait to show you that next week. We're going to have some different videos on this channel. We're going to start exploring and going in and taking what we've learned, what I've learned, further. So I picked this one up, this Posca pen, and so grateful that I had enough medium on there. It's leaked, it's done, and I just need to put it away because I keep forgetting. And so there was enough medium on it so the paper didn't soak it up and I could wipe it off. So I'm just drying that up a bit. And I think I come in, yes, with my gold pen. And I always love to, or usually, not always, love to echo lines that are already there in another way. So I love to use repetition. And these gold circles in those very soft ones are helping define those. And of course, some vertical lines coming down. I always love that part of it. So when I reach this stage of any pens or fine lines on the top, it means that we're almost at the end. And as I've said before, trying to be careful not to overwork the piece, just adding enough. It's feeling really good. So I brought in that sort of that metallic acrylic ink again, but it's really thickened up. So because of the lid being cracked, I'm sure. So I just sort of scratch in some gold there. And that seems to be enough at this point. But in the end, I let this rest a bit longer and make a few changes, but for some reason it just needed or just didn't need any more. So I wanted to leave it simple. So I dried it. I thought, okay, so let's take the paint tape off. Let's have the big reveal. And this particular type of paper, which is a heavy type of watercolor paper, I don't know if it was watercolor paper or a heavier mixed media paper, because the pad was very different from the Canson. And there wasn't any Canson the time I went in, and that's during the, those days. And here we are. So I'm going to let that rest, and then we're going to do a few more things, which I am going to show you, and that will be live narration coming up. But I'm glad I zoomed in here because you can see where I've echoed some line. That gold acrylic ink is really adding a nice touch. And remembering to use the X-Acto knife before removing, because there is some torn spots. And so let it rest and let's see what happens tomorrow. So we're back, and I've let this page sit and rest for a day. And as I kept walking by in my studio, because I've been doing a huge cleanup with all of my collage papers, my shelves that have been so messy and accumulating, I don't know, I think it's been at least a couple of years, at least a year before I've done a real thorough, just anything that is not current or it's too old or with me too bright, I've just tossed. So I can't wait to show you when I start sitting at this journal table and doing my new course, which I am in the middle of creating, my first new course. And so in the backgrounds, it's just more aesthetically pleasing. There's more me in my studio, which I'm learning from, I don't know if you know this artist, and I don't know why I have not found her earlier. Maybe I have, but I wasn't ready. Her name is Jean Oliver, and I just love her aesthetic. It's just incredible. And she's teaching more of the philosophy and the mindset behind what I believe in, and that is finding your own art, creating your own art for you, and finding your authentic art. And that's why I've renamed my channel, if you haven't noticed, Beyond Mixed Media, a journey to true art, or to your true art. So that's my little spiel for the beginning. And so after looking at this and thinking about it, I realized I did start this journal page, if you've watched it until the end, which is now, a lot differently. But there's elements that I really love that I didn't do in the beginning that I know now need to be there. And this is how you discover things you love, things that are really you. So I did the swirling line on text because I just love some sort of text on my pages. Maybe not all of them, but on most. And I did not really use any of my transparent or translucent collage papers. This is deli wrap. These marks were made from a bamboo skewer dipped in, I think it was either watered down black paint, Mars Black, or ink. Either would work. And I know I need to put some on here, maybe not a lot. Now, I did show you the page in the beginning which inspired it all. This is the stencil. And just hang on until I find it. I should have bookmarked it, but that's okay. There it is. So this organic rectilinear or waves, web, whatever you want to call it, plus my corrugated cardboard, which I just briefly brush across with my brush with black or whatever color I'm using and just stamp it on. And see how these lines, they're different from the lines I've chosen, but I like them. Also, metallic, acrylic inks. Now, this, of course, the lid cracked near the beginning of my purchase. I don't know why, I might have dropped it, but it is the Rowney Pearl Essence, and I'm going to use a little bit more of that with some line. I've also decided I need a little bit more line in gold. So let's turn to this week's page back. So that's what inspired. And all of the collage pages that I've created for this series are to my left, and I will show them at the beginning of the video, so I'm not going to show them again. But each time, we're just going to keep going. I'm going to keep learning about this grouping, this simple color palette. I decided I needed some more gold, and then I just go up and down and see the high contrast. Well, that's okay, but look how it looks in amongst equal value. And then you realize, wow. So notice, see, these two sections are too similar in size, so you need difference. But I do not want to cover this really lovely torn edge. So this is going to go right here. The base is too equal in size. It just needed something, but I didn't want a dark. So I chose this paper, which is made on the jelly plate with neutrals with the toothed catalyst wedge. And I know I don't have any Amazon affiliates or anything, but I'm working on those presently because I've been ordering new materials like crazy, especially some new jelly plate printers, a large one. So we can take our collage papers to a larger series on canvas, etc. You see how that just adds, and it brings the eye down. And I know this is just our art journaling, but this is a different art journal. There's a whole abstract series that I work on, and it's on the other side of the page. I will write down notes and things that I want to remember as I move forward using these colors. So, and then we'll see with a very light, I think I'm probably going to combine the neutral and the transparent white maybe overlapping again, but I'm going to save either the stenciling or the really interesting lines that this cardboard stamp uses to the end. Okay, now where will this, oops, let's start from the other side. So if you want to control your tearing, of course, you can tear along your other hand, and I like a torn edge. Do I want it to overlap and then? No. Do I want it just to overlap these? Do I want it above? Do I want it to go over? Do I just need a thin strip? One side torn, one side cut. So it's the scale of things. I think it's going to be this one. It's very interesting up at the top because I have enough subtlety down there. So that's my decision. And I will make a note about that decision using my self-reflection sheet. There we go. That you can download, of course. And you can also get the art prompts that I find so fun. And they really help you get unstuck, not thinking, just responding for any part of your art practice. Oh yeah, this is really good. And I love now how it will. This is the deli wrap. I'm finding it wonderful. Actually, no, this is the tracing paper. So it is a lot more delicate. And that's why I'm using the fluid medium. It's a gloss medium, but you don't need to use the gloss. But see, when you're bringing the brush across, if you go too low, that's what can tear. So I've learned that. It's such a learning process. And I am trimming my edges before it dries. That's really nice because it's picking up some of the dark and bringing it up there. Okay. I'm just going to put some of the gloss here on my glass palette. Move these out of the way because I'm not sure if I'm going to use them. So this goes here. My dog Dexter, I wasn't expecting to do this additional segment to this week's video, but it just really needed to be done. And it just was calling me. There we go. Now that I have, see how it's so heavy up top? And then as soon as I bring this down, it gives it a stronger base, which balances it out. And when I first started this started developing this intuitive layering process, what was so great is that I didn't worry about composition. I didn't worry about color combinations and color theory. I just decided, well, you know what? I'm just going to start intuitively in an art journal because it's safe, it's just explorative, experimental, and your creativity time doesn't have to be a big, serious, giant painting or anything like that. It's just your time, painting for yourself. And I know carving out that time can be tricky. So that's another big reason why I needed to redo my studio, rethink everything, and that's what's happening. So it's wonderful moving forward. Thank you for all of those artists who are ahead of us and showing us the way. And my belief is just to turn around in the line and help those who are not as, as far. And it's not a comparison thing. It's just in their journey. So if what I learn, I'm sharing with all of you. Because back in the day, I was so stuck and so tired of representational art because to me it wasn't giving me joy. And now this does. And I'm just going to push it further. So, what do you think? Does it need any more? I would love to hear your comments. I think just some gold line and we're going to call it a day. I don't think I want another different kind of line here. I don't think it needs another stencil, though this was the inspiration at the beginning. I am going to echo. I echoed that there. I might echo these lines here. And I like to overlap. Not too much. I might even just do just a couple. There. Okay, and I think I'm even going to write it in gold. The date. Oh, I'm just going to call it a new series. And, oh wow. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the different stages of this page. I'm absolutely loving it. And I could do dots along, but you know what? I think that would just be over the top. I think there's enough dots here. And I hope you continue with your intuitive art journaling practice, exploring those mixed media layers to help you bring out your voice and show more of you in your art. So don't forget to give the 5-day free course a try, because that's all together and it's in sequence, and it really helps you get started with your own way of using the mixed media layering process that I've developed. And I will see you in the next video.